Russia, China, and Iran surround U.S. carriers. Oil prices could explode. A tremor runs through the global markets. Oil traders in London, Dubai, and New York stop mid-sentence. Their screens flicker with the same breaking headline. Russia, China, and Iran have positioned naval forces within striking distance of U.S. carrier groups in the Gulf and the South China Sea. At first, it sounds like routine posturing, ships moving, nations signaling, nothing new. But the timing changes everything. Just one day after Iran threatened to sink a U.S. carrier, and hours before a fresh round of sanctions are announced in Washington, the world's three most assertive U.S. rivals now appear to be coordinating at sea. In the command rooms of the Pentagon, this is no longer a theoretical scenario. It is a geopolitical triangle forming in real time. From the Persian Gulf, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy announces new joint readiness exercises. Satellite images confirm fast attack craft converging near the Strait of Hormuz. Missile batteries on Keshem Island glow to life under infrared surveillance. At the same moment, in the South China Sea, China's People's Liberation Army Navy deploys a task force of 2 destroyers and an amphibious ship within range of the U.S. carrier USS Ronald Reagan. In the Mediterranean, a Russian frigate and a submarine surface near Syria's coast, their movement synchronized with Iranian and Chinese operations. 3 different theaters. One clear message: a global pressure test on American naval dominance. To understand why this moment matters, you must understand the psychology of naval power. For over a century, the U.S. carrier has been the symbol of deterrence, a floating city of steel, aircraft, and precision. Wherever it sails, nations notice. But carriers are also psychological targets. They embody American confidence, and so they invite defiance. When Tehran, Beijing, or Moscow threaten to surround one, the intent is not to destroy it physically, but to challenge the idea that America is untouchable. Power, after all, is not only about capability, it's about perception. Within hours, Brent crude leaps from $97 to $104 a barrel. The world has not seen that number since late 2022. Analysts call it a fear premium, money traded on possibility, not reality. Insurance rates for tankers in the Gulf double overnight. Shipping companies reroute vessels around Africa. Airlines scramble to hedge fuel costs. Energy markets, already fragile from climate policies and OPEC cuts, suddenly enter a state of nervous suspense. And the question every trader asks is the same: how close to a collision are we? In the Pentagon, briefings begin before sunrise. The Joint Chiefs review satellite feeds and intercept reports. Admirals speak of multi-vector pressure, the idea that America's adversaries are coordinating not to fight, but to force the U.S. into overextension. 2 carrier strike groups are now active: the Abraham Lincoln in the Gulf and the Ronald Reagan in the Pacific. Each is shadowed by foreign vessels and buzzed by drones. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin tells reporters calmly, "The United States does not seek conflict, but we will defend our forces wherever they sail." The statement is measured, yet its very existence confirms how tense the waters have become. This moment marks what many analysts now call the informal axis, a strategic alignment between Russia, China, and Iran, rooted not in trust, but in mutual interest. Russia needs distraction from Ukraine and sanctions. China seeks to push America out of Asia's sea lanes. Iran wants leverage for its nuclear talks and regional ambitions. Together, they create a web of pressure that stretches U.S. naval logistics thin. No single country wants a direct war, but each benefits from the appearance that one might be possible. The connection between war and oil is ancient, but in 2026, that connection is more delicate than ever. The global energy system depends on predictability, shipping lanes, contracts, timing. When uncertainty enters the equation, prices no longer reflect supply and demand. They reflect fear and speculation. Each day of tension adds billions in unrealized costs. A week of standoff can erode months of economic stability. In Tehran, the tone is triumphant. State television shows footage of missile launches, fast boats, and leaders smiling over maps. To its citizens, Iran appears strong, defiant, unbending. But inside the military council, planners know the truth. A direct fight with the U.S. Navy would be catastrophic. So the goal is psychological, to make Washington believe that any attack would come at an unacceptable cost. Iran specializes in what strategists call denial and delay, mines, missiles, and militias that can turn every mile of water into a potential ambush. It's not about victory, it's about survival through uncertainty. While Iran plays tactician, Beijing plays grand strategist. The People's Liberation Army Navy positions its ships around the Philippine Sea and the Taiwan Strait, but the message is indirect. By mirroring Iran's naval aggression, China shows solidarity without words. It reminds Washington that America cannot focus on one region without risking instability in another. Chinese state media call it strategic synchronization. Western analysts call it pressure by multiplicity. Stretch your rival thin, then wait for them to blink. Russia's presence is smaller but symbolic. A frigate equipped with hypersonic missiles joins exercises near Syria's Tartus port. Kremlin spokesmen frame it as defensive posturing, but everyone knows it is messaging. By appearing alongside Iran and China, Moscow positions itself as the third corner of a triangle meant to trap American attention. For Russia, every hour Washington spends watching the Gulf is an hour not spent arming Ukraine. In Singapore, refineries go on alert. European ports receive instructions to secure critical supplies. Oil companies like Shell and BP move tankers into holding patterns. By nightfall, energy markets are rattled but not broken. Traders still believe logic will prevail, that no nation wants a war that would collapse its own economy. But the question lingers in every boardroom. What if logic fails? At the United Nations Security Council, U.S. and Chinese ambassadors exchange careful language. Each calls for stability and de-escalation, while accusing the other of provocation. Back-channel calls flow through Oman, Qatar, and Switzerland. The goal is simple: keep ships apart, keep missiles silent. But no one can guarantee that a drone, a radar blip, or a human error won't ignite a chain reaction. The Strait of Hormuz handles roughly 20% of the world's oil supply, nearly 20 million barrels a day. Even a temporary closure would trigger a price surge unseen since the 1970s. Traders remember that history. So do politicians. Every barrel becomes a bargaining chip. Every headline becomes a trade order. And the world realizes again how dependent it remains on one narrow corridor of water. On the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln, jets idle in silence. Pilots wait for orders that no one wants to give. Below deck, radar operators track hundreds of blips. Most commercial, some unknown. A single false reading could change history. That's what makes this moment terrifying. War is not always a decision. Sometimes it's an accident. By February 27th, Brent hits $108. Gold jumps 8%. Asian markets slide into correction territory. Economic commentators say the same phrase: geopolitical shock. But beneath that clinical language lies fear. Fear that a global energy chain stretched thin by decades of political rivalry could snap overnight. In a world talking about renewables and electric futures, oil still dictates geopolitical reality. Every superpower knows it. Every conflict reveals it. Oil is not just energy, it's leverage, currency, and control. Whoever can disrupt its flow can reshape the world order without firing a shot. That's why Iran tests missiles, why Russia deploys frigates, and why China positions destroyers near trade lanes. They understand that economic shock is the new art of warfare. Washington's strategy is multi-layered: military deterrence above the surface, diplomatic containment beneath it. Cyber units watch for attacks on oil infrastructure. Allied navies from the UK, France, and Japan increase patrols. The White House contacts OPEC partners quietly, asking for production stability. It's a modern form of triage. Keep the world economy breathing while the military holds the line. From Lagos to Lahore, fuel prices spike. Protests erupt in European cities already strained by inflation. In India and Japan, policy calmie